Hello everyone and welcome back. Um, Today I'm going to be showing you how to set up ELS lighting. Now I know there are, I can probably say about a decent handful of videos online of how to do this. Essentially it's the same way. I figured I would make a video as well because I tend to be a person who um, explains things a lot further than what most people will. So if you're someone who is still struggling to set up your lighting, especially with ELS, and you need a little more of a description on how to do it, look no further, of course. Um, I'll only be showing you how to set up a light bar. Essentially, the process is exactly the same no matter what. This car I have here is something that I threw together really quick and use in my game for LSPDFR. So it's definitely not the greatest car on planet Earth or anything like that, but it gets the job done. What I've done so far is I've deleted all the other lights because obviously I'm only going to be showing the light bar up here, which is a Whelen Legacy. Doesn't matter what bar you use, doesn't matter what type of lighting setup you have, none of that really matters. The lighting, as far as setting this stuff up, is going to be the same for every single thing. It doesn't matter if it's a light bar, one single light, side runners down here, whatever it may be. It does not matter. So let's go and jump right into it. What I'm going to do first, I already have all of my extras over here already opened up and stuff like that. I'm going to grab all of these right quick. And what I'm going to do, actually no, I won't do that. What we're going to do first, I'm going to go from here all the way down, hide all of this stuff, and also hide the chassis, because really the only thing I need is the lights. I'll also tick on the light bar as well. Let's see here. That way you can actually see the bar itself. So as it sits right now, all of the LODs are open. They're not compounded or anything like that. And the dummies are placed up here. This right here, this first piece right here is the dummy. So if I was to go through and uncheck all of these right here, you'd be left with, of course, just the lights. Of course, you have to have your dummies on the bar, and actually this one here needs to be moved up. Speaking of dummies, you don't have to move these around. You can leave them exactly where they are. So if you were to make a new one, which is the dummy helper right here, create a dummy. If you were to make one, it's going to place it right in the middle of the scene, in the middle of the pivot helper right here. You don't have to move these. Just want to make that very clear. You don't have to move them. I personally like to, just so everything is kind of grouped together. I like everything to be kind of organized and neat. But ELS, you don't have to move the dummies around like you would have for non-ELS or things like that. ELS is very, very simple and very straightforward and to the point. But I'm going to go ahead and move this dummy right here. I'm going to grab it on the X and the Y axis, untick my little thing down there. I'm just going to move it up over here somewhere into the light bar, just so it's in the kind of the same spot everything else is at. And then I'll look at it on the front, make sure it's where it needs to be. Yep, everything's good. Perfect. Now it's where it needs to be placed at. So what you'll do is you will make a dummy for each light. If you don't know what dummies are what I like to call the placeholder for all of your objects. Every single object that you have on a vehicle has to have two main things. It has to have a dummy, and it has to have LODs. Now, some people will argue you don't need LODs, you don't have to use them, just modify your metas and things like that. If you are going to make a vehicle proper, in order for it to work properly with the game, because I don't know if you guys mind it or not, but I personally don't like seeing a car come down the road with nothing but wheels and a driver floating. That's essentially what will happen if you don't do LODs. Or you'll have little pieces just all of a sudden pop up on your LO and you don't have anything else. It's essentially your level of detail at whatever distance it's set at. LO is very, very up close. L1 is about like so. L2 is about here. L3 is about here, and L4 is like really far away. Okay. What these are for is it's to help with game performance. If you have 200,000 polys and you use it for every single LOD, you're going to be streaming a 200 plus thousand poly car at hundreds of feet away. It's not good for game performance. So again, two main things you need: dummies, LODs. Everything has to be compounded. You don't ever want to take, say, a light bar, for example. If I was to go here and dismiss it, you don't ever want to have just this floating. Like you never want it to have just this. You don't want to just have just a blank object with no compounding, because then it's also not going to work properly when it comes to collisions and things like that. So you always want everything to be compounded no matter what it is. If it's a simple push bar or something, even if you don't want to compound it, attach it to the bumper at least. That way it will still use that collision off of the bumper and work as it should. But anywho, back to the lights. So I've got all my extras, of course, already done. Most light bars will come set up just like so, and untick all of these. If whoever made the light bar was a decent modeler, most of the time they'll do the LODs for the lights for you, such as this one here. This is 5.0's Legacy. He did a really great job on this bar and done all the LODs for the lights, but sometimes you'll get a bar that's set up just like this. There's no LODs, there's no nothing. All you have is just your regular LO. If it's set up that way, that's fine. What I will normally do is I will take a copy, I will take a copy of my LO and use it for my L1. After that, I will either crunch down the lights here. So let me actually hide the Legacy here. I'll either crunch down the lights here, that way there's not a million polys over here, or I'll just take and create a box and get rid of the back face and use it for the rest of them. Either way works. If you take all of these and you copy them throughout the whole entire thing and use it, that's okay, because it's just lights. If it's a whole entire piece for a car, it's a little different, but in some cases you can get away with copying your LO all the way through, and in some cases you'll do it for lights. Some people like to have the more detailed looking emissive, because I think it gives off better detail in game, or whatever the case may be. But for more bigger things, of course, always do your LODs there. And we have an autosave. But anyways, I've been talking for probably 5 minutes. I haven't actually showed you what to do, so let's go ahead and jump into it now. Just kind of little back things, of course, that you need to know beforehand is essentially what all of that is. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to grab all of these extras and pull them up. I've got one of these. It's a little off, I believe, but it's okay. Let's see. Grab all of these here. I'm just going to turn them on, just like so. So now everything is selected. How you'll set up your lights normally is you're going to make your dummies for each extra. I have extras 9, 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You can go all the way up to extra 11, I believe it is. 12? I don't know. It's been a while since I've done this. But you can go all the way up to that for lights. I just have these selected because the lighting setup was very minimal. I had a certain way I wanted to set up my stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, and most of the lights were all attached together. So ended up working out that I still had some extras left for other stuff, such as a laptop or something for an extra. But what you're going to want to do, once you have all these lights set up, you've got them placed however you want them, you've made your dummy, you've made your copies, and they're in this box here. I would just make a example for you right quick, just so you understand exactly how you do that, because some people won't know how to put these into an actual into a helper. Where'd it go? Of course it goes back down. Place it. Fuck, it's not working. I just want to place it right up on top. There we go. Okay, so you've got a dummy here. I'm going to hide all of these. You've got a dummy you just made here. You can move it to whatever position for your light, and I'm just going to make a little box right quick. And just like so. Okay. That essentially is going to be my object that I'll be using. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's just an example. So what you'll do is you're going to grab a copy. Excuse me, I had to sneeze. You're going to grab a copy of the box here. So you're going to go to create, copy, and this essentially is going to be your light. I'm using the box as a placeholder, but it's the same concept no matter what. So you have your first box here. Make one. That's your LO. So you're going to make LO, L1, L2, L3, and L4. You're going to grab that 5 times. So you're going to have 5 boxes in total. Okay. I'm gonna go down here, grab all of these. I'm gonna move it up to the dummy helper, pop it in here, and then of course you would name it the respective extra name. It can be extra underscore 10, you know, and that's one thing too. I'm glad I just named it that. The only extra you ever have to name, like actual name it, is extra underscore 10. It won't be extra underscore 10 like that. It doesn't work in game. Don't ask me why, I don't know. It's just the way the game's set up. You'll name your dummy the same thing, extra underscore 10. Now technically you don't have to name your LODs. They can be named apples and friggin' whatever you wanted to name it, and it'll still work properly, just so as long as the dummy is named what it needs to be. For the sake of this, of course, I'll name these together just like so. And that's essentially how you're going to set up all your lights. If you want to do things the right way, you want to do them more organized, then naming each object is going to be a little bit easier. If you don't care and you already know what all that stuff is, you don't have to do that. But that is literally as simple as it can get. And then from here, you're just going to compound all of your objects. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this, and I'm actually going to compound my actual lights themselves. I'm going to hide all these down, because I'm going to do show all. Get rid of that, and then from here, go down, and I'm doing shift and then clicking, and then hiding everything. So now the only thing I should have left is my lights again, as we started. And from here, I'll grab this, shift click there, and I'll grab this little button here, which is the expand button. It expands all your nodes in the tree. So you set up your lights, you've got everything here. Most of the time you'll have lights. If I do say this here, and I go to display, and I go to center, most of the time your lights will be set up like this. This isn't a very important step with ELS. I always do it just so, again, I know that everything is going to work smoothly. What you're going to do for this is this is your axis essentially. If you were using non-ELS, this is very important. For ELS, again, it's not important at all, but I always center them to the dummy anyway. But you'll normally be left with something like this. You'll have maybe, you know, another one here set up, and it's one's here, one's there, whatever. What I normally will do is I will take all of these, I'll grab each one that's not center, and I will click on reset to parent, and then just click, and it'll reset all your axes to the dummy itself. Now, when you want to compound an object, I'm sure most of you already know how to do this, but of course I'm going to show you anyway. If I'm going to compound extra 9, what I always do is I tick my tick your LO off, grab your dummy, convert to compound. Make sure that the LO is off, or any sort of LOD in that just general sense, because if you do that, then your dummy is going to be your LO. Then this is going to be L1, L2, L3, and L4, and it just won't work properly in game. So make sure your dummy is set as default, then click on the lock button here, click on LO, click and drag. L1, click and drag. L2, click and drag. Move that down a little bit. L3, click and drag. And L4, click and drag. Now you should be left with everything working as it should. You can click through your LODs to see. LO is set up here, L1, L2, L3, and L4. Works exactly as it should. And you're going to follow that same process through the rest of this. What I'm going to do right quick is I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and set all these up. Actually, wait, I'll do one more, just so everyone can see it one more time. So grab your dummy, convert to compound, lock it, click on LO, click here, drag it, click on L1, drag the next one, L2, drag the next one, L3, drag the next one, and L4, drag the next one. Now obviously you just don't want to click and drag wildly. You want to make sure that what you're clicking and dragging into there is your LOD. You don't want to take your LO and put it in L4, and your L4 be the LO. You know what I mean? So whenever you do this, sometimes what I'll do is I'll even name them like extra underscore 7 LO, extra underscore 7 L1, because again, the name doesn't matter for the object, only the dummy. So you can do that if it helps you. I do that sometimes. Sometimes I don't if I already know everything is in order. But I'm going to pause the video here, and then I'll pick back up once I've done all this, and you get to see the final product and what you should have. Right, so I've just finished up everything. This is how your lights should look whenever you're done and you have the LO selected. By the time you're finished with doing all this, all of these should also be a bold. They should also be in bold whenever you're finished. That's to let you know that everything is compounded. What you can do after you've done that is tick through your LODs. So this is LO, L1, L2, L3, and L4, and autosave. Now once you click off of the LOD and there's nothing there, you should see all of your dummies in the same place that you had them to begin with. Once, of course, it's not. Now click off of L4, boom, all you have is a dummy. So how your light bar should look is it sits on the car. I'm going to turn off wireframe here so you can still see it. You currently have this. If I go into L1, it'll go down, L2, L3, and L4. Now at L4 there is no light bar, obviously, because at L4 you are about this ways away. If I go into 3D mode, all that stuff won't be there. You're probably this far away from it, so you can barely see anything. So having the light bar there obviously is not important. I'm going to reset that pivot, reset to origin. But that's why they're just sitting there floating. For any other LOD, you don't want to have floating lights. But for L4, you can get away with it because it's a really far distance. So you got that there. That is all you have to do. That is literally the easiest thing you could possibly ever do is ELS. Non-ELS is a lot more complicated. Most people use it though because of 5M, or they have their own server, or whatever it may be, or they use something like live lights and things like that to customize it. You can do all of that same stuff with ELS. It can get a little tricky whenever you're editing XMLs, but they're pretty straightforward. But that essentially, in a nutshell, is how you set up your your ELS lights. I'm sorry, and it's just that simple. That concludes the video. We'll see you guys in the next one.